Hare Krishna devotees, good morning. There is a little bit of a confusion with our speaker. I'm looking into it. In the meantime, let us listen to Srila Prabhupada singing Jai Radha Madhava.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha
Ramcharan Prabhu, will you say the Premadhvani prayers, please?
Sure, Mataji. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिवर्जकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिवर्जकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रीलादास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासद और भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण को गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन धाम की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवदीप धाम की जय। गंगा मैया की जय। यमुना मैया की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glories, all glories, all glories to Shishi Guru and Shishi Gauranga. All your Shukra.
Jai.
Hare Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jaya udiriyet shramatam swakatha krishna punya shravana kirtana hridantaistu bhadrani vidhanoti swarsatam nashtaprayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavad sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtaki. So today we are going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1st, chapter 13, and text number 33 and 34. So I would like senior devotees to please chant first. Acharya Prabhu would like to recite.
Sometimes he's at work.
I'm at work. I can't talk now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, Vindhyavali Mataji, would you like to start?
Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Amba chahata putrartha pitravya gata shuhrut api maya akruta prajne hata bandhu sa bharyaya asamasamana samalam gangayam dukhito patat. Amba chahata putrartha pitravya suhrut api maya akrita prajne hata bandhu sa bharyaya samana samalam gangayam dukhito patat. Amba chahata putrartha pitravya gata suhrut api maya akrita prajne hata bandhu sa bharyaya asamasamana samalam gangayam dukhito patat. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prityai gata amba chahata putratra pitya gata shurit api mai akrita prajne हतबन्धु सभार्यया असंसमानसमालं गङ्गायां दुःखितोपतत्.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ambacha atputrata pitrivya kvagataha suhrita api maya akrita pragye atbandhuhu savariyaya asam samanaha samlam gangayam dukkito apatato.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ambacha hatputrata पितृव्यः क्व गतः शुरत् अपि मय्या कृतप्रज्ञे हत बन्धु सभार्यया आशंसमानः शमलं गङ्गायां दुःखितोपतत्. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna.
Amba cha hata putrartha pitrafya kvagata suhet api mai akrita pragne hata bandhu sa bharyaya amsham samana samalam gangayam dukkito patat.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Amba chahata putrartha pitribhya ko gata suret api maya krita pragye hata bandhu sabharyaya asam samana samalam gangayam dukkito patat.
Anyone else would like to say? We have Pariksit Prabhu now. Hare Krishna Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna, I accept my humble obeisances.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to Srila Prabhupada, and I profusely apologize for mix-up this morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we can start right away.
So we all recited the prayer, Prabhu. So you can recite and start go to translation.
Okay. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Dhritarashtra Quits Home, Text 33. Amba chahata putata Pitrivyakwa gata suhit apimai akrita pragye hata bandhu sabalyaya asamsa now samalam shamalam gangayam dukito patat. Word for word. Amba, mother, aunt. Cha, and. Hata putra, who had lost all his sons. Artha, in a sorry plight. Petrivya, Uncle Vidura. Qua, where. Gata, gone. Suhit, well-wisher. Api, weather. Mai, unto me. Akrita, pragye, ungrateful. Hata, bandhu, one who has lost all his sons. Sa, Dhritarashtra. Bharyaya, with his wife. Asam samana, in doubtful mind. Shamalam, offenses. Gangayam, in the Ganges water. Dukita, in distressed mind. Apatat, fell down. Translation by His Divine Grace, HG Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Where is my well-wisher Uncle Vidur and Mother Gandhari, who is very afflicted due to all her son's demise? My uncle Dhritarashtra was also very mortified due to the death of all his sons and grandsons. Undoubtedly, I'm very ungrateful. Did he therefore take my offenses very seriously and along with his wife drown himself in the Ganges? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Pandavas, especially Maharaj Yudhishthira and Arjuna, anticipated the after effects of the Battle of Kurukshetra, and therefore Arjuna declined to execute the fighting. The fight was executed by the will of the Lord, but the effects of family aggrievement, as they had thought of it before, had come to be true. Maharaj Yudhishthira was always conscious of the great plight of his uncle Dhritarashtra and Aunt Gandhari, and therefore he took all possible care of them in their old age and aggrieved conditions. When therefore he could not find his uncle and aunt in the palace, naturally his doubts arose, and he conjectured that they had gone down to the water of the Ganges. He thought himself ungrateful because when the Pandavas were fatherless, Maharaj Dhritarashtra had given them all royal facilities to live, and in return, he had killed all Dhritarashtra's sons in the Battle of Kurukshetra. As a pious man, Maharaj Yudhishthira took into account all his unfavorable misdeeds. And he never thought of the misdeeds of his uncle and company. Dhritarashtra had suffered the effects of his own misdeeds by the will of the Lord, but Maharaj Yudhishthira was thinking only of his own unavoidable misdeeds. That is the nature of a good man and the devotee of the Lord. The devotee never finds fault with others, but tries to find his own and thus rectify them as far as possible. Text 34. Vitaryo parate pandao savana suhita sishun arakshatam yasanata vitivava katal ita. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When my father Pandu fell down, and we were all small children, these two uncles gave us protection from all kinds of calamities. They were always our good well-wishers. Alas, where have they gone from here? Oma ginati vidanyasya gyana gyana shalakaya chakshu omlitam gyena tasmai shri guruve namaha. Shri Chaitanya manovistam stapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha. Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam. Sadvaitam Sabudutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam. Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataru Vyascha Kripa Sindhibhe Eva Kcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirveshesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshatarini. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Premi Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachise Namaha. Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himadhya Divacha Vishindaraya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. So, a text again, text 33, English translation. Where is my well-wisher Uncle Vidur and Mother Gandhari, who is very afflicted due to all her son's demise? Uncle Dhritarashtra, my uncle, was also very mortified due to the death of all his sons and grandsons. Undoubtedly, I'm very ungrateful. Did he therefore take my offenses very seriously and along with his wife, drown himself in the Ganges? And the English translation for text 34 is, when my father Pandu fell down and we were all small children, these two uncles gave us protection from all kinds of calamities. They were always our good well-wishers. Alas, where have they gone from here? So clearly these two are lamentation by a good-hearted person, Maharaj Yudhishthira. And lamentation definitely puts us, anybody that's lamented before, we know how our state of mind is and how our emotions play out during that time. It's a very difficult time, very, very, very difficult, because things seem like, it's out of our hands and there's nothing we can do about it. That's the first feeling that comes. I wish I could correct it. I wish I could do it differently, but that time is already gone. The time to change it is already gone. And all you can do, if you want to do anything about it, is look back at it and say, all right, so what can I do now? But in the case of Maharaj Yudhishthira, those that were around, or those that he was thinking about, the reason for his lamentation, those people were not even in the palace. For him to be able to say something to them, to admit fault if he wanted to, okay, we'll talk about fault a little later on, sometimes how to deal with it as far as I've been instructed. When you feel you're at fault, or sometimes you don't even, if you look at the situation very closely, you're not at fault, but you want to be able to do something about it, even if when you're not at fault, okay? So it's very delicate. So the Pandavas, when you go back, there's no reason really to blame them, because Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra and Shakuni had already tried to even kill the Pandavas way before the war started. They built a house of lac in Varnavat, and the Pandavas were asked to go there and have a vacation. Just imagine you've been told, oh, you got a very nice place now for vacation, and you can go there and just enjoy yourself. In the meantime, the person that's told you that is planning on killing you in that place where you're supposed to be enjoying yourself. Now, even that thought alone, if it enters the mind, but these people were the ones that were trying to kill me, at least they didn't try to stop him, but the Gandhari did not know what was going on. But Dhritarashtra knew something about it. And his son, that Dhritarashtra himself was trying to push for him to become the next king after him, Dhritarashtra died. He was the one arranging all of this, along with the brother-in-law of Dhritarashtra, Shakuni. So there is actually a case against them, a big case against them. But Dhritarashtra is gone, and now Yudhishthira is looking at what his part was, at least the way he sees it, in contributing to this. After all, the sons of Dhritarashtra are all dead. There's 100 of them, and it was the Pandavas that killed them in the war, and they dead. And now the person that raised me when my father died is grieving because of what I did about his sons. Okay, so that part of it is one way to look at it, and the other part of it is, but they could have gotten rid of us too by this nefarious or horrible plans. They tried to strip our wife naked in the courts of the same Dhritarashtra. So some things have been done on the other side too. Anyway, so before we comment about it, let's look at the purport, the seed of Prabhupada. What about this? The Pandavas, especially Maharaj Yudhishthira and Arjuna, anticipated the after effects of the Battle of Kurukshetra. They figured that if they won and the other side lost, there would be grieving. There actually was grieving in the whole of Hastinapur. Wherever the soldiers came from, people had lost their brothers, they lost their husbands, they lost their sons, so there was grieving on all sides. But Arjuna was trying to get away from the fight because these, when he saw on the other side, relatives, that if they killed him or when if he was successful in killing them, the effect would be to lose their company. And he wasn't happy about that. Now, this is what brings us to a situation that's quite delicate, but it's also very important to understand. The instructions given. We have been told, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That would give us an opportunity, if we chant with great concentration, to go back to the spiritual world. You have to believe that you go back to the spiritual world when chanting. When was the last time you were in the spiritual world? Do you know? Do you know how to get there? Do you have rights in getting there? You don't. You're going by faith. So sometimes Maya can make us think, well, you know, there's what is in the material world right now. It may not be great, there may be disturbances, but if you work hard and you become successful, then you can gratify your senses, and that's here and now, and that's true. You can gratify your senses. The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, you can chant. When you die, what will be your next life? It depends on the mercy of a spiritual master, it depends on the mercy of Krishna. But mercy means I have no control, just like Maharaj Yudhishthira had no control. So how important it is for all of us to pray so that our faith remains strong, because this is all based on faith. Fortunately, this is how Srila Prabhupada comes in. Fortunately, the faith that we have is cemented or given ground by the comments or the purports made by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Krishna has said things the way they are in Bhagavad Gita. I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything, material and spiritual, they all emanate from me. We know it emanates from him or his expansions, Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Shirodakshaya Vishnu, or the expansion of Balaram. There's the Vishnus are for the material world and the expansion of Balaram to spiritual world. It's all connected with Krishna. We were given the information or description of the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nobody is at his level. And he says, if you surrender to me, then I will take all simple reactions away from you. Don't fear, just rely on me. Then there's Maya. That voice that says, all right, but you have proof though? So sometimes we are put in situations where the only way in which we will in fact keep our faith going is association of devotees. Association of devotees is very, 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 very important. Because if anyone tries to just do this whole Krishna consciousness thing by themselves, it becomes very difficult to be successful or to keep your faith up high, because there will be all kinds of reasons given by Maya. And he doesn't do it all at once, just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there, and you buy into it, or I buy into it. And then little by little, our devotional creeper is being slowly taken away and slowly weakened. So we got to understand that being in the material world is like being in the battle of Kurukshetra. We have our own battles that we're fighting. And sometimes there will be lamentation, just like Maharaj Yudhishthira is lamenting. Now he's looking, that's another section of it, he's looking at how he has caused grief to Dhritarashtra. This is the sign of a grateful person, a person who has so much affection for others and puts them first before him. This is a person who does not take the offenses done by others to him so seriously. And that connects with what Lord Chaitanya says, Amadina Manadena. Amadina Manadena. So you respect others, don't expect respect from them, and certainly don't require respect from them. So Yudhishthira was connected in that way mentally, and he was looking at, all right, so where's my well-wisher uncle Vidura and Mother Gandhari, who's very afflicted due to her son's demise? Those were the two people that Vidura was definitely helpful to them. Mother Gandhari was not against them, but at least Mother Gandhari was there in the palace to welcome the Pandavas when they were young, and he was always helping to raise them. So they all done good things for the Pandavas. My uncle Dhritarashtra was also very mortified due to the death of all his sons and grandsons. Yeah. Now we can look at it and say, but they were the ones that caused the war. There was an opportunity to just give a small tract of land amounting to 5 villages to the Pandavas, and the war wouldn't have happened. But they went on and tried to cheat the Pandavas in so many ways. If they couldn't kill them, they were trying to cheat them. But still, Maharaj Yudhishthira was not looking at that part. He was only looking at what grief had caused and had come because of the war, the grief that's caused to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra had to learn his lessons. Now, so what do we learn from this? Well, sometimes by karma, somebody's got to go through some changes, a negative reaction. If we are insensitive and say, well, it's your karma, my Guru Maharaj says, yeah, this is happening. It's your karma, boo. It's your karma, right? Yeah, it may be so, but if the person is grieving and then you go after them and say, okay, well, this is what happened. Actually, I'll tell you a real life situation that happened. I saw this literally on Facebook. Somebody posted it. It was actually horrible to watch. A family had gone to East Africa, Kenya, and they go to the forest, the zoo, not the zoo, the forest. And there are people who, this is part of those who want to go, actually they call it safari, right? And you just want to go see animals and so on. So, and they are guides, from Kenya, and they're even armed if anything happens. So they know what to do. So these visitors were in a car. And they were not just walking in the zoo because, in the forest, because the wild animals were there also. So they were in the car. There were a bunch of lions. This is all the, I saw a video of this, a bunch of lions, and they came close, and those in the car were kind of say, oh yeah, I can get even a better view and take pictures of it. So they were taking pictures. It was a small car, And after a while, the lions just look at them and say, who is this? And they just turned around. They started walking away. And as they were walking away, they had their back to the vehicle. One of the guys with the camera got out of the vehicle and wanted to get a better shot. Now, I'm sorry, I won't be too graphic about it, but what happened was that there were a number of lions, just a few lions, 3 or 4 of them, but one of them was still behind the car on the other side, and that guy didn't see him when he came out. And so as he was taking pictures, that one lion came from behind and knocked him down. Literally, like I saw the video, just knocked him down. And the guy froze in fear. You could see there's no sound to this, and it's just on the camera. He froze in fear. The lion walked around him and started devouring him. And the other lions walked distance. I think they got a sense of it. They turned around and came back towards the man. One of the lions took the camera and just took the camera in his mouth, like walking away to put somewhere else. And the other guys, the other lions, basically had a meal, if you know what I mean. And this was actually videoed. But we could also hear the screams. You could see the screams of the man. Probably it was a woman in the car, a man's wife, maybe. And they, those that were the guides, they heard, and then they fired some shots from their rifles. They fired. And I think the lions know something about it. So when they heard the shots, they immediately jumped and ran away. So the guy was hurt badly. And they jumped, the lions jumped in, and these, the employees, the guys came, they took the man, and the man actually died from his wounds. And we saw him be put in another vehicle, mostly his belly area, had so many injuries because of what the lions did. Now, I was horrified to see this, but there was a comment that came later on from other persons that saw this. And this was, in fact, a devotee that made a comment. The devotee who is a disciple of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, made a comment about that guy dying like that it was his karma. Now, it may be true, you may think about things like this, but to actually make a statement in Facebook and write that, I think it's a little bit too extreme. So we have to be really, really sensitive. That's why I gave this particular example. The man lost his life. But yeah, for him to be knocked down the way he did, you can think about it from a material standpoint. It was very foolish for him to get out of the car and not this happened to him. But it could be comically involved into true. Devotees know this, but we have to be very careful when we say these kind of things, or where we say these kind of things, especially where. So in the case of Maharaji Dhritarashtra, he was very mortified because his sons were dead, grandsons too. But what is happening here is that Maharaji Dhritarashtra is only looking at his side of the situation, how he may have caused this. It was very difficult for him. He started lamenting, this is Maharaji Dhritarashtra. Very, 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 very fortunate, because he kept saying that all these millions of people have died so that I can be put on the throne. So he doesn't think so highly of himself. He is being he's obviously adopting a humble position in this case. And we have to be very, very much on top of being humble too. Because if we're not, then if you say, okay, this is supposed to happen to him, that is supposed to happen. Next thing we know, we'll be making offenses ourselves. If we're not careful and look at the other side, he did this to me, she did that to me, and that's why in this situation, sometimes then the Maya says, yes, 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 and you can wish badly for that person. This could happen to him, that could happen to him. All of these thoughts in Kali Yuga, we are told, does not affect our spiritual bank account. But the problem with those kind of thoughts is how we ourselves are wired, right? And by that I mean our thoughts have to be watched, because our thoughts can become our actions. Matter of fact, when we start speaking about it, then the thoughts is what we vocalize. So our thoughts become our words, and then our words become our actions. Now, we already told you the nectar of instruction that if we say things that are negative, that is under the category of prajalpa, gossip. So already, when we begin to speak negatively about someone, another example given by my eyes, if we criticize somebody or say bad things about someone, it's like throwing garbage at them. Now, physically, you wouldn't want to throw trash at someone. But if you speak negatively, it's like throwing the things that you don't like at them. Now, physically, you want to do that, but mentally, we try to do that anyway. So we have to be very, very careful. So we have to watch our thoughts. Our thoughts can become our words can become our actions. And then from the actions, if it's repeated in a community, and some people who are weak in mind follow what we do, especially if we have some sort of influence or clout, follow what we do, then they begin to do the same thing too. It becomes the culture. This happened literally in my own country. It's an example. So people began to realize that the politicians, this was in Ghana, West Africa, that they were embezzling funds. Rather than do something about changing the situation so that the whole country could benefit, the little man also started saying, well, yeah, I have some position here, and I will also take bribe. So slowly, before anything could be done for someone, you had to pay him some money. And I know in other parts of the world too, this is going on. But literally, we saw at that time, at that time, there wasn't much of that situation going on. But as I grew up, it got worse and worse and worse and worse. And after Ghana got its independence and people got more position, and then they say, oh, but the money is there and the politicians are taking it. So we also can do, if the big man is doing it, we also can do. And it got to the point where it's become so brazen that in one example, there was one official, and this is a friend of mine that told me this, that was supposed to, do his part in an application. And it was connected with business. And so this friend of mine went there, and the guy told him, you have to pay a bribe. Literally, I was just, help me out, and then I will do for you. And the guy was, and my friend was resisting, but then the employee, this government worker, explained to him that your fees for getting this work done for you, or for the approval so that you can go get into business, is so much. And I want to give an opportunity for you to give me some money, which is less than what you have to pay to the government. So basically, my bribe is a reduced rate for you, and I could just sign like that. So it's gotten so bad now. People are saying, but you can get away with paying less money if you bribe me instead of paying the actual thing. So see, when Maya is so bad now, the person is not realizing that even the full rate, if it's paid by, it goes to the government, and everybody in the country benefits from the funds collected. But this is Kali Yuga, and this is the situation we're in now. So we got to be very, very careful how we deal with things. As is explained in Canto 5, Chapter 5, Text 10. This is Maharaji Shabbadev talking to his 100 sons. What we should be about to become a good devotee and practice love of Godhead. He said, Oh, my sons, you should accept, actually it goes from text 10 to text 13, so it's 4 of them. My sons, you should accept a highly elevated Paramahansa, a spiritually advanced spiritual master. In this way, you should place your love and your faith in me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the spiritual master is going to guide us. The spiritual master is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we take advice from a bona fide spiritual master, we're basically taking advice from the Super Soul, from the Lord. And he says, you should detest sense gratification and tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain. And he says the pleasure and pain, they come and they go. They come and they go. They don't stay forever. Nothing is in fact permanent in the material world. And as my Guru Maharaj put it, the only thing that's permanent in the material world is change. Change, that happens all the time. Change is permanent in the material world. So there will be changes that will happen, and we shouldn't be too attached to pleasure, material pleasure that is, and material pain, but we should really push that no matter what happens in our spiritual life, that we take our spiritual responsibilities seriously. That is what's going to get us back to the spiritual world. That is what's going to satisfy Krishna. That is what's going to make Krishna happy with us, and therefore give us his mercy to go back. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without a doubt. The final decisions are made by him in going back home, but he's also very merciful. So Prabhupada, one time, and I heard a recording, not a video recording, but just an audio recording of Srila Prabhupada talking about the kindness of Krishna. And he said, Krishna is very kind. And he kept repeating, Krishna is kind and kind. And I heard on the audio, his voice was breaking. He broke, it was like he was getting emotional talking about the kindness of Krishna. So we started talking about, all right, but you don't know whether you go back to the spiritual world, you go by faith. You go by faith and obey what the bona fide spiritual master is saying by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Connecting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in service, that we have a chance to go home. But we also need to realize that Krishna is very, very, very kind. And so the kindness does in fact play into, that is the mercy. The mercy and the kindness, they play into the decision made by Krishna to get us to go back home. Sometimes when we're in doubt, we have to remember we are chanting Hare Krishna. The overwhelming majority of the population of this earth is not chanting Hare Krishna. They're not. We are. And so the fortune is on our side. Therefore, when sometimes doubts come in, we should actually be a little bit more satisfied in the fact that there will be help given by the spiritual master and mercy given by Krishna, and the chances of going back to Godhead are actually quite high if we persist in Krishna consciousness. Never give up. Sometimes we have to fight sense gratification. That's all right, as long as you give it a fight. Sometimes we get into situations where we lament, and then Maya says, yeah, I know you're lamenting, but here's something to satisfy you if you would take it. But in the sense gratification, we have to stay away from it. So all of this fight goes on and on and on and on and on with our minds. It's called internal dialogue. My Guru Maharaj gave that term to it. What the intelligence is saying, what the mind wants to enjoy, even though it's not good for the mind, but the intelligence tries to bring us back. Chant the holy name. Set yourself up to go back to the spiritual world. Krishna is merciful, and he wants us back home. And I know we do not remember what it is like to be at home and to live at home, but Krishna says, you, Arjuna, declare it. my devotee will never perish. So with all of that, and the assistance that we get and the association of devotees so that we can stay the course, we need to move on and on and on and on and on. And finally, the time will come where we'll be able to go back to the spiritual world. So Maharaj Yudhishthira is showing us his heart, even though there are people who did in fact do bad things to him and his brothers, and tried to cheat them. Krishna was there the whole time. Krishna's pure devotee was there the whole time, Vidura. He helped them. And so in the same way, we'll also will be helped, but we need to look at how we behave and not cause offenses or difficulties to others. We should not. In the case of Maharaj, it really wasn't his fault, but he's still talking about how the other persons are feeling, to be sensitive and to be sympathetic to the others, to other people, is also a good sign, a good quality of a devotee. And so the example that I gave about this man who lost his life because of alliance, yeah, it may have been karma, but we have to be very careful where we say these things, because sometimes people will say that you don't care. So Maharaj Yudhishthira taught us so much by his behavior and by the things that he said, and we can learn from it and become more sensitive. And through the sensitivity, then we will get to go back to Godhead along with the other things that we do in Bhakti Yoga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I think it's the best verse assigned to you, I think. Nobody can explain this as well as you do.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy, not me.
I do have a question, but Mother Golokananda has raised her hand. Go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu, very wonderful class, actually it's a waking up call for us, I'm just thinking, unless one practice Krishna consciousness is very hard, unless you've been chanting or practice your sadhana for a long time, it's very difficult for us to, just to not see the fault of somebody who caused pain to us. So, but I have a practical example, somebody who is very close to me, so-called has given me so much pain, but now that person is going through a hard time, and because, I've been following, we're trying to follow Krishna consciousness, been chanting for so many years, actually in their heart, there's no resentment for that person. So this can happen to anybody who practice Krishna consciousness, because we don't see, whatever pain the other person had caused you, you just see them like, like they're like part and parcel of Krishna, and, and you don't feel any resentment, and you're ready to help that person.
That's, as the way you described it, Mataji, is the consciousness that we have to have. That is the summary. We summarize in one word, that's compassion.
Yeah.
That's compassion. To have someone, they're going through things, because a typical non-devotee would say, oh yeah, see, it's come on you now. Now you're the one that's going through problems. You gave me problems, and now the world is teaching you what it is like that you're going through problems. So Maharaj Yudhishthira knew that the Dhritarashtra would go through problems if they won the war and his sons got hurt or killed. And that's exactly what happened. But look at the way he's looking at it. Yes, so that's a devotee's heart. Thank you for the comments. Hare Krishna.
Just thinking the practice of Krishna consciousness and the sadhana bhakti really work. It really changed your heart. If I would be like previously not practicing Krishna consciousness, I would hate this person so much,
Yeah. And if something happened to him, then you start laughing at him and
happy that something bad is happening to that person,
And then the typical person will start laughing at him and say, see?
Yeah.
Now it's your turn. You're going through. But yeah, the devotee is supposed to be more empathetic in situations even like that, even when they get offended. it's easier said than done. It's initially you have to work at it. But then when we hear more about compassion, we hear more. As a matter of fact, we should make a self-assessment. What areas am I weak? And hear more lectures in that area. Because so many ideas would come then as you hear lectures. So I'm not as compassionate. Sometimes I tend to be not so sensitive when situations happen to others. All right. So you go to, you use electronics and bring up compassion, ISKCON, devotees, ISKCON, gurus, some sort of research field like that over in the internet, and see what lectures are there involving that particular weakness that you have, and take notes of it and try to practice it. And slowly that will change. Slowly that weakness will change by the suggestions that we get. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
So
Krishna.
on the flip side, we take pride in calling ourselves devotees, calling ourselves. So if we are not feeling that compassion, if we are feeling that kind of anger or resentment or anger towards somebody else, then we should use that as a yardstick to measure our being a devotee. Right?
That's using a yardstick means our intelligence kicks in and say, what do we gain from acting like that?
Yeah. But my question is, this is, and you mentioned Kali Yuga. Sometimes people say, oh, this is Kali Yuga, everything is meant to be bad. Everybody is going to be bad, mean, terrible. So we also need to, they call that intelligence, to fight back with those same qualities. What do you say then? Yes, this is Kali Yuga. Bad qualities are prominent, but still we are reading about Yudhishthir Maharaj and we are glorifying him, not being angry towards Dhritarashtra. We get angry at people. Mother Golokananda was saying somebody was not so nice, but think about what the Pandavas went through. Their wife in a full court was being dragged.
Stripped naked, dragged.
I haven't gone through that kind of a calamity, at least not yet. But so I haven't been trying to be burnt in a house. Bad things have happened. People have done not so nice things to me, but nothing to that degree. And yet I'm feeling anger or resentment. And the reason given is Kali Yuga. So should I follow Yudhishthir Maharaj's instruction?
You made very, very important points. One of it is you mentioned twice that, people say this is Kali Yuga. And as soon as you said the first time, then the thought that came to my mind was a statement made by His Holiness Govinda Maharaj. He said, yes, it is Kali Yuga. And it's going to get worse. It's the worst time religion is prominent and people behave not so sensitively towards others, to put it mildly. But a devotee should live like it is Satya Yuga. Even if it's Kali Yuga, you still have to live like in Satya Yuga. So you got to be tolerant. You got to be kind. It's Bhagavad Gita in 1842. The mode of goodness, the way the Brahmanas work, the peacefulness, and they don't cause problems to others. They don't cause problems to others. When it comes to discussions, sometimes when you have a discussion with somebody that has a different point from your point, and you're talking to that person, obviously you have your idea, they have their idea, and their ideas are opposite to each other. You have to learn to listen to the other person, see what their point is, and include it in your thinking. Because the aim should be at the end of the conversation that you haven't butted heads. And now the relationship is saved, because when you say save them, you're still remaining in a good relationship with them. even though you've had that conversation. So sometimes it means what you yourself are thinking has to be put on hold. When your intelligence tells you that if I hammer my point so much and this also disagrees, it's going to wind up changing our relationship from being cordial to be one that is not cordial, or maybe even become enemies and we begin to avoid each other because of that particular situation. And you don't want that happening. You don't want that happening. We need to have good relationship with all devotees, especially, and it's to our advantage. And here's the advantage. The advantage is that when the time comes for us, not if, but when the time comes for us to leave our bodies, and the senses are shutting down, we need all the help that we can get from devotees to chant the holy name. Now, if we deal with devotees in a harsh way, every devotee that we've dealt with that is uncomfortable with us is not likely to come to our bedside to chant for us at that time. And boy, the more devotees that we get to come to our bedside, the better off we are. So if we burn, as we say in America, burn bridges like that between ourselves and the devotees, we are in fact limiting the number of people who can help us remember Krishna at the time of death. So it goes against us sometimes if if we're not careful about that. It goes against us in the end. That's why when we're dealing with devotees, and even when we have a situation where we disagree with them, the way in which we talk to them, and sometimes knowing that it could could bring a problem if we keep going, stopping ourselves, literally stopping ourselves and putting the relationship that we have, the good relationship we have between us and that person as priority, and that we don't want to break that particular relationship, and act intelligently in such a way that the relationship is not broken, which means you don't use very strong words. You have to use mild words. Sometimes some things will have to wait till later because Krishna is in charge. He's in control of everything that happens. And in the end, even if we were not treated well, the argument was on the other side, but we were calm and didn't make the situation worse, Krishna will prove to the other person later on that they were wrong, if they really were wrong. Krishna can do everything. If you understand what I mean. Sometimes we want to bring our point out so badly because we think we're right, but the person's not going to hear us. If a person's not going to hear us in the situation, it's going to get worse. Our relationship is going to get worse or compromised. It is best to pull away. And Krishna will, in fact, at another time, in his own time, prove to the other person what the real situation is, what the real reasons are. And sometimes our reason is right, and that person will know later on. Krishna is in that much control. And we have to trust and wait it out rather than break the relationship between us and that person. As we said, in the end, when we need a lot of devotees to chant for us, that person probably won't show up because they don't like us because of that incident. Hare Krishna. Mother Vindhyavani, what is?
It's a very nice class. I think I need to learn a lot of things from this class, I think, because I'm far away from
I'm learning too.
I'm far, far away from this, Prabhu. And I know that I don't know whether I can act like Satyuga. It's very hard in Kali Yuga acting like that, because this is coming, Kali Yuga is coming so much. And if you act, and if you you're saying that you cannot be like Yudhishthira Maharaj, because if you are like Yudhishthira Maharaj and soft and doing like that, they take advantage.
Yes.
So that makes this, even Yudhishthira Maharaj, he is something, Yudhishthira Maharaj is something. But in Kali Yuga, if a person will be like that, it cannot be, they just make that person change. That's it. So sometimes I feel, yes, after listening every day Bhagavatam class, I think every day, I think, no, I cannot be like this. I have to change a lot. But still, my feelings, just as I told you, I have to go a long way.
We are
I don't know
all
how long I have, my life is.
practicing Mataji. There's so many things that it's funny. Early in the morning, I was reading about we have to count the things that we do that's positive. It's very important. The things that we do that's positive encourage us to go on. After all, this whole process of Krishna consciousness is a process where ultimately we'll develop love of Godhead. It doesn't happen overnight. There's an alternativity, there's things that are unwanted desires that will have to go. And if you've been in this for a while, you realize that it takes not even just months, it takes years and different situations happening. And some of them, we may have difficulties overcoming our lower nature. And Krishna will mercifully turn the same situation, the same problem into another situation where we can, get an opportunity to deal with that weakness again. In other words, the weakness is not gone. Krishna will set up so many things, one after another, one after another, one after another. You will see that underneath that, the fault is the same thing that Krishna wants us to work on. So it is a process. And we also should remember that while we've developed good qualities over time, that we don't have to be 100% pure for Krishna to allow us to go back. As a matter of fact, Prabhupada said something about this, so that we just mentioned. And it was his disciples that talked about it, so then we got to hear about it. So you got to be pure to go back to the spiritual world. That we understand. Srila Prabhupada says, even if you act not 100% pure, but 90% pure, the mercy is there. This was a class that he was giving. And then he got down from the Vyasa-san and threw his chart over him and says, 90% doesn't work even if 80% pure. We'll arrange for you to go back to Godhead. He started walking out of the temple. When he got to the door, before he walked through the door, turned around and told the devotees, even if 70% you do, we can help you get the mercy to go back to Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada basically is aware of the fact that many of us won't be 100% pure. But what we're doing is we compare ourselves and only that scale. But sometimes we want to bring people to attention that we are the few people in the world of 7 billion people who aren't chanting. And that's where the fear is. That's where the mercy is. The devotees get far more mercy for the Supreme Personality of God. If he's equal to everyone, but then if you turn your face to him, then you get the mercy. And if you turn your face away from him, you don't get the mercy. And the overwhelming majority of people in the world aren't getting the mercy. So devotees are actually fortunate. And with that thought, then we say, okay, so I have this, I have to work on myself more. I have to work, get more advice, and also watch what other people do. And little by little, set small goals for ourselves to achieve. And little by little, we will in fact be better people. But Mataji, you hear every day, and believe me, in hearing, Baba said that's the first thing to do.
But I'm trying to get points from there. I try to get it, but I don't know how long it will take for me to grasp it, a whole thing,
One of the things that is said in our 9 processes of serving is Vandanam, prayer. When every time I hear myself with that same statement that you've made, I don't know when or how I'm going to go about it. That means I feel it's out of my hands. And when things are out of your hands, what do? You pray. You pray. Because once you pray, then the solution will come in a way that, which means you don't know how to go about improving. But once you surrender to Krishna in prayer, he will teach you how to go about it. But yeah, in a way that's made specially for you. Because I know it happens to me too. And not long ago, earlier in the week, I was also told the same thing by Chandamali Swami. Keep praying, because I asked him a question about the difficulties that I was having because of my physical body being, an old age. I'm 70 now. So things that I used to be able to do, I'm looking back, 20 years ago, I would have done this just like that. And now, every
That's
time I
right.
try to do it, there's pain, and then there's other pain. I can't try to do
Same
something.
thing I feel, Prabhu. I would have done long time ago this Krishna, get into this Krishna conscious, everything. But I didn't do it. But at later age, I started. And I don't know how much time I have. Krishna has given me. I don't know how much time I have, but grasping whole thing I want to do. But sometimes it is taking time for me.
There's a mercy factor. All you have to do is just keep trying and keep trying and keep trying and keep listening, take notes, and make little. See, to get success, you have make little steps. Take little steps, and understand that some of the steps are not going to be so good. Sometimes you try and there'll be some failure, but then you try, and then when you pray, then you get ideas about other ways in which to do that same situation. In spiritual life, this is a very important point again that I was taught. In spiritual life, yes, as we keep chanting and we chant more steadily, we are improving, but it's not like a straight up improvement. You go up to a point and then there's some challenges you have to work out. So that's a plateau area. And after that, and Krishna brings the challenges tests to see, after we pass that test, we see that there's a certain quality we've developed. Then we go a little bit more. Then there's another place to work out. Then we go a little more. So it's like that. And at the time you're on a plateau, you feel like, then you start criticizing yourself. I'm not able to do this. I'm not able to do this. But with prayer, Krishna will show us the way in which we can, the way in which, because we can't figure it out ourselves, but through prayer, Krishna will show us a way in which we can improve our devotion. And then from there, we go up. The other thing behind that is, once we've seen that problem and have been able by Krishna's mercy to overcome that problem, then we are in a situation where if others tell us that they're having this problem and that problem, and it's similar to what you had, you know what to tell them because you've been through it.
Experience.
You've been through, yeah. So sometimes that's the other side of it too. That's very, very, very helpful. Especially at your age, people tend to take advice from older people. Then if you've been through one thing, then how it went about scale, I practiced. It happened to me, and this is what I did. This is what I did. This is what you can do, like that. So you use that to help other people with your experience.
I'll wait for Krishna's mercy, Prabhu, and all of your mercy.
That's all of us.
What is mercy?
That's all of us. You can pray for it every day. And I want to be a better devotee. I used to be also in and said, I'm asking for blessings to be a better devotee.
That's all.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice class, and I request Shobha Radhe Mataji to upload this class.
Yes.
Again,
this morning, I in all the confusion, I got all stressed out, so I did not live stream it on YouTube, but definitely I will put this class on YouTube so we can listen to it.
I want to say that recently, I think because of Krishna's mercy and hearing the Bhagavatam classes, I'm beginning to realize that if we encounter the difficult person, so the only thing what we can do is to change ourselves. When we change ourselves, develop compassion, the other person also bends, changes. So I had this example at work. One girl was giving very hard time. She used to say so many things I never expected to hear from anyone. And one day, and I thought that we have to work together. And I cannot change her. Only thing I can do is change myself.
Yes.
I started listening to Bhagavatam more classes more and change my mind, consciousness, everything. So when I go in front of her, she sees me like I see me as a different person, and she changes and she has become my best friend. She doesn't mind.
It works. But the important thing you mentioned is you change something in you to adjust the situation And now this person became more sensitive and has become a better person, and now your relationship has improved.
Yeah, and then
How
I also
important it
think that the
is.
Krishna, difficult person Krishna brings in our lives to change us, to make us better person and help others also. I think
Difficult
that is
people
the
are
time.
always a test for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
You look at it that way, a test. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
And yes,
It's
you have
part of
everything
this.
very, very nicely.
Prabhu, sorry,
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
I really like your story about the lion. You know, there's a man being attacked by a lion, how devotee posted. So this one is waking up call. We don't post the insensitive, comment on Facebook, This is very common among devotees. So many negative things. Sometimes you don't want to go on Facebook because you see so many negative things.
Yeah, and the rule is if you don't have something positive to say, don't say anything. Don't say anything.
And Prabhuji, I also think that it is a constant practice. It is not that if we are one time we improved and become nice with others. There will be challenges along the way, and we have to our mind changes. So we have to constantly work on it.
And we have to constantly chant so that our mind is clear also.
Yeah.
That's why the mantra is there.
Yeah.
That's why the mantra is there. It works so many wonders. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hey.
Yes.
Good discussion.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Kalpatarubyasya kripa sindhubhyo cha patita pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hey, whose mercy? Krishna's mercy.
I'll try to change.
Everybody try to change. It's a constant, lifelong endeavor. Hare Krishna.